Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Big League Breakdowns for day 12 of Around the League in 30 days as we stop in Houston to check on the Astros. Myself, Will, and Bobby here talking about the Astros and what they can be this season after a really traumatic, would that be a great word, off season for them after losing a lot of their core pieces, not all their core pieces, but a lot of the guys that have made their team really successful. They are now gone and new guys are coming in, so we'll see what that looks like as we look at the projected starting lineup for the Astros going into the season. Of course, Jose Altuve, the Hall of Famer, probably, yes, or a future Hall of Famer in that one spot. Isaac
No,
Paredes.
he has to be about 3 inches taller to make the Hall of
Yeah,
Fame.
there's a height requirement. Isaac Paredes in the two spot as he comes over from the Cubs. Jordan Alvarez, Christian Walker, the big first base free agent this season. And then at the bottom, a lot of question marks. Yainer Diaz, Pena, McCormick, Gamel, Myers. Brendan Rodgers comes over from Colorado this offseason, might get some time in that platoon role. And Dubon as well, maybe get some playing time in that infield as well. Looking at their pitching rotation going into the new season, which is very banged up right now. Projected opening day lineup is Valdez, Brown, Blanco, Arrighetti, and Wisniewski. Wisniewski. I'm not sure how to say that.
I'm gonna call
Bullpen.
him Hayden.
Hayden, there it is. Bullpen stays the same um, in terms of not bringing anybody in. These couple guys that are young guys that are going to get more of a opportunity. But you look at the injuries for them right now. McCullers, Garcia, Javier, all out in that starting rotation. So going to get a lot of reinforcements back eventually. But right now, that is how it is looking for the 2025 Astros as we now get into the storylines. And really the big news, it's in with the new, out with the old, out with the old, in with the new. I messed it up already. But Bregman and Tucker
Failure.
exit and Walker and Paredes come in. Will, I mean, they have been there forever, right? Bregman has been there for so long. Was really like one of the first pieces that they kind of brought in to like turn around. Because remember, the Astros before they were really good were really bad. And he is one of the first guys there. Of course, Kyle Tucker. They do replace them, but will their replacements live up to the hype?
I think it's a fairly comparable replacement, even though on the surface, I don't feel like a lot of people would think that way. Um, Combining Paredes and Walker's numbers from 2024, it's 244, 45 home runs, and 164 RBIs. Bregman and Tucker, what the Astros are losing, 269 average, 49 home runs, 124 RBIs. Obviously, the big note for the Astros is that Tucker was hurt for about half of the season and was putting up pretty damn good offensive numbers with 23 home runs and was on pace to get over 40, which would have easily been a career high. But Christian Walker was also hurt for the Diamondbacks last year, and he tends to be a low to mid 30s home run guy, 100 RBIs. Even when it comes to on base, Paredes walked about 76 times last year. Um, Bregman only walked about 44 for the Astros, so it's a bit improvement there, even though in previous years Bregman had walked a lot more. Tucker walked about 56 times in his career highs, about 80, and Christian Walker walked during the 60s. So like slugging percentage on base, they're fairly very like comparable to one another. The big thing for the Astros is that they finally have a fix for first base, which has been a huge hole for them ever since the name Jose Abreu came out of someone's mouth in Texas. So I feel like the concerns are more going to be about the pitching. And I will say that while you lost Tucker, I feel like Christian Walker, aside from Juan Soto, could have the biggest impact offensively this year with the Astros. And I thought that was the case with any team he was going to sign with, just because I think he's underrated and kind of hides in the shadows of players like Alonso or Harper, Olson, Freddie Freeman.
Yeah, it's sorry. I got caught here because I'm like looking at the lineup and it's funny because you bring up like, oh, they finally got their first baseman, which there is some truth to that. But we were talking about the Red Sox, I believe, in one of the other episodes, and
Who? Don't know him.
the Red Sox and Bregman, yeah. Um,
Never
and
heard of him.
and we were talking about how they can't. You're not replacing the position, but you're replacing like the contributions offensively, and I feel like that could be the case here for Walker. Like um, Walker kind of replaces Bregman. Tucker gets replaced by Paredes, I guess, but it's so tough, man. And now you look at that outfield for the Astros, and it's just not the same as it was. It's very barren compared to what it was. So, I think that's my biggest question for the team is like, what do they do with that? I know there's some talk about Altuve going out there. Um, but I mean, looking at this outfield trio that they have right now, Taylor Trammell goes down with a injury in spring training, and his now he's questionable with a calf injury.
It
But
was
yet,
questionable just to walk onto the field. Has not been a thing.
you have McCormick, you have Gamble, you have Myers. I mean, that is not great. I'll say that. So, what is your take on that kind of outfield trio that they have?
I'm trying to double check Chas McCormick's defensive numbers because I know at least for Jake Myers, he's not a offensive guy, but he is a stellar defender, and so I almost feel like that might be the direction in general they try to take. I'm not saying all the platoon options out there are going to be the best defensively, but if you can have a stellar enough infield offensively that can propel the lineup, then if you have the defense in the outfield, even though you might be losing some offense there, this team was so talented offensively before that it will hurt them, but I don't think it's going to hurt as much as we think, especially because while if we want to say of the 9 players in the lineup, the 3 outfielders are questionable offensively, I still feel like the other 6 guys in the lineup all can produce, especially 1 through 5. So therefore, just to say 2/3 of your lineup is still top of the line and the other third is maybe more average to slightly below average, I still feel like most teams would take that.
Do you what do you buy of this like Altuve might play left field thing? Because I
He's the
think
Boy Scout that will do anything to help his team win.
yeah, I mean that's true, but it's also like they have you kind of look at that depth. They bring in Brendan Rodgers, as I said. They have Dubon, and I wonder if they're more like more comfortable playing one of those guys at second and then moving Altuve out there. But what do you make of it? Because it would be very weird to see him in left field. I must say.
He's just taking the mentality, I think, of I'll do anything to help my team win. And right now, the team probably is like, well, we might have some offensive questions in the outfield. So if we want to throw you out there and put someone at second for that game, you cool with that? And he was like, sure, whatever. I mean, size wise, he's perfect. He's fast and he's small, so he can get places quickly. I mean, I don't know if it's really going to be much other than that. If someone gets hurt and they toyed around enough with this, then maybe. But I feel like if this happens at all, it's going to be maybe a handful of times the entire season.
Yeah, yeah. And again, I'm just curious with that. It'll be fun to see him trying to rob a home run, and I know not in Minute Maid, but anywhere where the wall is kind of scalable, it'll be fun to see that.
I want to see him rob a home
Uppies,
run from Yankee Stadium.
uppies. That's crazy. Um, yeah, I mean, look, Altuve has been such a staple for them, and I think, as you said, he's probably like, hey, whatever it takes to win. If you guys feel like we have more depth in the infield and can get more offensive production, and that's what we have to do, then I'll do it. And again, we'll
Yeah,
have to see.
Devers, this is what you do for your team.
Yeah, exactly. Take notes. Looking at the starting rotation now. So there is a lot of injuries. And guess what? This is the same conversation we were having last year about the Astros. Their starting
Slightly
pitching
different.
is yeah, but it was their starting pitching is absolutely decimated. You know,
But the difference last year was it was decimated and it was staying that way. This year, it's decimated to start the season, but they're getting the pieces back.
Yeah, and I mean, and hopefully they don't have other injuries, but
Of course they will.
lucky for them, I mean, they found Ronel Blanco and he just became amazing last year. Arrighetti was pretty good, but what do you make of this rotation as of now? And once you kind of plug those other guys into the rotation, it actually looks like a really good rotation. But can this version of the rotation hold this team over?
I think it can. I mean, it really just needs to hold out for April because they're going to be getting Garcia and McCullers back both within roughly a month of the season starting. So, I mean, sometimes even early in the season, the way days off play out, you can almost get by with four starters for a week or two, and then you need to bring the fifth one in. So, this division is going to be close at the top, but it's only close because I don't feel like anyone 100% stands out. And so, therefore, I feel like right now with the way the Astros look, at least look right now compared to what they've had in the years past, they're probably in the mix with the Mariners and the Rangers. And that's about it as long as they can stay in that mix. But hey, look at what happened last year. The Mariners ran away with the division, it looked like. The Astros were fumbling, and then they just kept chipping away. And the next thing you know, they took the division easily.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's like I kind of feel like with this rotation, it probably is good enough to hold them over. It's just a matter of I think the Rangers got a lot better and they're healthy. The Mariners, I'm not sure about. So it's kind of weird when you view them with the division or whatever. But still looking at that starting rotation. Um, Framber has shown that he can be, a top guy. Hunter Brown had a very, very tough start to last year, but he started to turn around,
Big
of
time.
course. Yeah, big time, of course. And then Blanco as well. I mean, guy basically it's the way they were talking about it is like they picked him up off the street and he goes out there and throws a no-hitter. So it was kind of crazy in that sense. So again, if they can get Garcia back early enough, if they can get McCullers back and stuff, I think they'll be in a good spot. But yeah, I don't know. It's like
Their first month of the season's not too bad either.
yeah,
I mean, it's fairly mid. I mean, you face the Mets, but then you face the Giants, then the Twins, the Mariners, then Angels, Cardinals, Padres, Blue Jays, and then the end of the month with the Royals and Tigers. But you would
yeah.
hope that by the end of the month, that's when you've gotten Garcia and McCullers back. So, I mean, and a lot of that stretch, what they play their first, they have a first week of games and a day off, and then it's five off, six off. So, I mean, they're in a. I think they have they have enough to hang in there.
Yeah.
And with again getting two guys back and a whole lot of the season left, I feel like that they're going to be just fine staying within the competition for the division in the playoffs.
It's going to be I think it's going to be a tale for them where it's going to be their starting pitching that really propels them this year. Like if they're going to become a playoff team still, I think it's going to be more on what they're getting from their pitching rather than what they're getting for their hitting. And not, I mean, look, not to discount that because not for nothing, Jose Altuve is still there. Jordan's still one of the best hitters in baseball. Christian Walker's a great hitter. Paredes, people are like really high on because of his power numbers. And I remember, at some point during the offseason, there was like a chart that came out that it was like if, if Paredes played the games that he played in Wrigley with the Cubs at Minute Maid with
Mm-hmm.
the Astros, he'd have like a 40 home run season or something or whatever it was. So
Was he love the Crawford box or something?
yeah, he's gonna be loving that Crawford box. So I'm not saying that the offense is going to be bad, but I guess if you look at name value wise and what they have in that starting rotation when everybody's healthy, it feels like that's what's going to propel them over, being this dominant offensive force. But I guess time will tell. Looking at
I
the,
still feel like they're going to be a pretty dominant
yeah,
offensive
I mean,
force. I mean, I really
yeah,
do.
I think they're going to be good to average. I just don't know if they'll be great, in my opinion.
I really think that they could still be among the top five in the league.
Mm. We'll have to see. Again, I'm kind of excited for Paredes again, see how many home runs he can hit, and Walker as well. Looking at the bullpen, this was a bullpen that kind of got hit around a lot early in the season last year. Josh Hader being one of those guys. And I feel like, Josh Hader for so long was such a dominant force when he was with Milwaukee, and he was like, at that point, probably one of the better closers in the game. Now it's kind of been kind of rocky, Will. So, how do you see him in 2025? What version of him do you think we'll get?
Based on his career trends, he should bounce back because it seems to be off year, off year, great year. And that goes back to 2021. But specifically looking at last year's stats, there's one stat that I look at and it makes me think that he's going to be fine. There's another stat that's a little more concerning, but in general, I do think he'll be fine. His whip last year was under one for the first time since 2021, but he also allowed double digit home runs for this first time since 2019. So the fact that he still gave up 12 home runs and had an ERA of 3.8 compared to his 2022 ERA of 5.22, I actually think is not bad. Um, so I look more to that whip right now and telling me that he was still really effective of not having runners be on base. It was just that unfortunately, a good chunk of those times when he was giving up hits, they were home runs. So I feel like as long as he can keep that home run total down, he should be a lot better. And given the way he's bounced back and forth, I mean, not necessarily saying he's going to be that 1.2 Josh Hader, but I think having an ERA under 3 is much more realistic for this year after having 1 year with the Astros under his belt.
And he's going to have to step up because you don't have, say what you will with the year he had last year, but they don't have Ryan Presley there anymore. And, this is Hader's closing job now. Like it's not, maybe there wasn't ever a question, but like it's cemented in. It's really excuse me, Hader, and there's not that many other big names in there. Like you have Brian Abreu, who's pretty good. Taylor Scott, okay, but then it's like you start to get to guys that you just don't know what you're going to get from them. So I if they're gonna have a successful bullpen, it starts with Hader, and I think he's gonna have to really, be that guy for them in the back end that's closing down games where we're not going into games. I'm saying we like I'm an Astros fan. I'm not going into games
Obvious.
in the eighth and the ninth where they're up by one, and you can feel confident that you're going to win that game more times than not. So I think we talk about how good the starting pitching can be. I think the bullpen is unproven in some spots, but again, Josh Hader, he's kind of the constant. We think we know what we should be getting from him, so he's going to be a key piece in that back end. And then kind of to put a bow on everything. Can the Astros still compete in this division, or this finally the fall of this empire that they have created? As I kind of mentioned earlier, I think the Rangers got a lot better and healthier. Seattle, they didn't really improve, but they should still be in that conversation. Um, the A's,
That's all you get.
I don't think are going to be competing, but they got better, and the Angels also got better too. So, what do you think? Like, do you think they win the division this year? I should also say, you should probably save this for our predictions video. Hint, hint. But, what is their outlook for this season in terms of the AL West?
I can't clear cut say right now if I think they're gonna win the division or not. I mean, I have a lot of concerns about the Mariners' offense and the Rangers, while their offense vastly underperformed last year and they were dealing with pitching injuries. I do expect the offense to bounce back and they at least have DeGrom to start a season for once, but I'm not still convinced that their pitching is good enough in the rotation and in the bullpen. So I still think everything is very much up for grabs in the Astros. I do have faith just in the way that the organization has been for the last decade that the young guys are going to be developed, are going to take the next step and develop in the majors, especially in Diaz and Pena. Hopefully Pena has slightly better defense because he hasn't been the best at preventing errors his first few seasons. And even the bullpen, you said you were concerned about the bullpen. I understand there's a lot less like household names in the back end of that bullpen. But part of what made the Astros so dominant at the end of the 2010s and even still for the most part now is how pitchers, young and old, would come into that pitching staff and they would just seem to figure something out. Like it didn't matter who you put in there, they'd redevelop whoever they were as a player, or they would find their stride and know and be molded into a stellar back end uh, relief pitcher. So I still think that that is very much possible, even though last year they to start the season were very much not that, and we were like, "What's going on?" But I the Astros dynasty I feel like is going to be a strong. Will continue to be strong as long as Altuve's there.
Yeah, then there's a lot of people that didn't want to hear that right now. But that I think with that, I think that kind of wraps up everything that we have to say about the Astros here on day 12 of Around the League in 30 days. As again, just you kind of hope they go away, but it does sort of have that feeling that they just might stick around a little bit longer. You can follow us on Twitter at BL_breakdowns, big league breakdowns everywhere else. Make sure you like the video if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel for more as we continue to truck along. Day 13, we make the stop in Kansas City to check on the Royals. But until then, we will see you next time.
Or your trash cans.